Alright guys, we're back. We have got not a PAM advertising clock, even though it's a one-to-one clone. We've got a Canadian neon ray, which this company I need to look into more. They made actual clocks with neon on them. I have no idea what type of movements they used, but yeah, let's take some time to actually work on one of these. This one is in working condition, but we're going to service it anyway, because that's what we do around here. And yeah, we'll spend some time looking at the movement and simply enjoying that. Of course, we'll rebuild this and we'll, appreciate that this thing does have advertising on it. This company still exists, by the way. But this video or videos is going to focus mainly on the movement of this thing. Granted, it's a very small movement, so there's not too much to focus on, but yeah, we'll take a little bit of a PAM advertising slash, we'll take a bit of a world tour of these things, I'm thinking. There's lots to go over with these, and unfortunately, basically none of that has any sort of real company information. I don't think a lot of that is publicly accessible. I may have to call up a friend and go on newspapers.org and see if there's any, any advertising for these advertisements. I'm not sure. Maybe some trade magazine has all the secrets. I don't know. Anyway, more to research on these, but yeah, we're gonna look at our movements. So what, these clocks are super famous. I'd say in the advertising world, they're very well known, very collectible. I paid $210 for mine, which is more than I would usually spend on any clock. But because it's one of these, you basically have to pay something like that, or not get it at all. So, unless you find one while you're urban exploring or something like that. But I think those have been all scooped up as well. Either that or the dials have been smashed out. In any case, here's the interior of my neon ray. We'll call it a neon ray for now because, yeah, I'm assuming this was made in agreement with PAM because it's a one-to-one clone. All the dimensions are the exact same, so, yep. Oh, shout out to whoever that, I'm forgetting his name right now, I'll link it in the description, but he actually made a video repairing one of these, except his had a fluorescent tube in it instead of the light bulbs, which are more common. So, yeah, I'll put that video in the description if you want to see, like, a full, more in-depth teardown of one of these, as opposed to mine. He even repainted his, so, good for him. The main power source of this entire operation, of these expensive advertising clocks, what the heck drives it? Does anyone recognize that from anywhere? We'll get that that's part of here, we'll get that out of here. Does anyone recognize this? I don't see a lot of hands going up in the class. That's fine. PAM, and it looks like Neon Ray has followed suit, and the camera isn't focusing, because why would it? This is an Ingram movement in here, which is, this is an earlier generation of Ingram clock over here, but, it's the same company. These use electric Ingram movements to power them. And if you're wondering where all the actual gears are, here they are over here. That is it. This, on top of this, drives the entire clock. If we look inside the body of our neon ray here, we can see April 25th, and it almost looks like 1988, but I don't think PAM or neon ray was in existence in 1988. So I'm just going to assume that's 1966 or 68. That's got to be a 6. There's no way that this is from 88. This is way too well made for that. And also that movement there, like that was gone by 88. You guys have seen, if you go on my, previous advertising clock adventure, with those dairy products advertising clocks from the 1970s or slightly before that, they were not using movements that you could actually really disassemble. They had those synchron motors, and that was kind of it. They copied this, the wiring, sort of, but otherwise it was just sort of, yeah, it was definitely inspired off of a PAM. They stole the hands. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, guys, I'll link it in the description. But I've worked on more advertising clocks in the past, and they were worse than this. They were newer. This movement here can be found in Ingram's other clocks. I think these two, for a start. These are both from the 60s. I don't know which half, though. I'm going to assume mid to late for both of these. So that lines up with the with that motor there. This over here can be found in this clock. I think actually this top plate is used in both of these, and I think that bottom plate is custom made for this movement, I think, or this clock, sorry. Yeah, I think these both have their own individual bottom plates. So yeah, Ingram was contracted to get, you know, be the power supply for this thing, or be the source of power. You know, I thought for sure this would be some weird like homebrew movement or something, but nope, they've gotten these guys to do it. Kind of surprised they didn't get Westclock to do it instead, but who knows? Maybe these guys were offering a better price. Couldn't tell you. This is not the only PAM movement, by the way. There are other PAM movements. I have no idea if they're all made by Ingram or if they got Synchron to make movements for them. I really don't know. There aren't really any pictures online of, you know, again, when everyone is focusing on these things, they're looking at the dial and they're looking at, you know, there's pictures of these things lit up all over the place, but no one's looking at that. Now, I know that's not too glamorous, but yeah, it is important for understanding how these things work. If we have no idea what power source these things have, then when they stop working, people are going to say, "Oh, the motor died," quote unquote. The motor died. It did, you know, quote unquote. And then we'll just throw a quartz movement in this thing, and that'll be that. Boo! That is terrible. Do not quartzify these things. A lot of people, and I think it came from the probably the original ads or something. I know jewelers would never repair these types of things when they stopped working for any reason, whether the coil inside here, whether that became open circuit or the, you know, something went catastrophically wrong with this. Half the time these things just, I mean, like their mechanical counterparts, there's a travel alarm movement there. These things just need to be cleaned and oiled, like cleaned and re-oiled, disassembled, or let me try that again. Disassembled, cleaned, and then re-oiled. That is what these need a lot of the time. They do not need to be, you know, they don't die, quote unquote. So, yeah, when I got this one hadn't died. This one was working fine. It just needs new light bulbs. But I am going to go in there and clean all that, because that is, you know, all old and greasy. So, yeah, electric motors in these clocks. Everyone likes to say how much they fail or whatever. If you actually take more than 2 seconds to investigate what's wrong with it, chances are you'll figure out, oh, wait, if I plug it in, the motor is still buzzing, but the thing's not moving. Maybe it's dirty. Maybe it's stuck. Anyway, sorry, that's a rant. Ingram movements, good stuff. Let's get into it. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering what this is on the back, maybe you've already figured it out, that is a oil wick. It took me forever to figure that out, but yes, that is that has like a sponge in there, and yeah, you put oil on that, and it oils the main rotor. As for these other ones here, for some reason, PAM didn't make this accessible on here. This is where the movement sits, and that it's sitting on top of a riveted-on plate. And if I just flip this over, you know, there's no access to the oil wick in there. You have to take this thing out to access this. On Ingram's other clocks, that bolt is covering the oil wick, and it's also, you know, the same story here. It's covering the oil wick, but it's also holding the case together. And that's also kind of part of it here. So it acts as, you know, an oil cap and a fastener. For some reason, PAM just made this completely inaccessible, or Neon Ray. I'm sure they both did it. Again, if Neon Ray did it, then PAM definitely did it. 1-to-1 clone, like I've said. I've never seen that. I've never seen that nut on the back of these, on the back of a PAM when they're actually, you know, showing pictures of the back. Quite odd, isn't it? I wonder what, like, how did they expect you to get in here? Maybe they didn't. I don't know what the life expectancy of one of these is, but, you know, these are still going today, unserviced, like this one is. So let's continue with that, shall we? Let's keep that life expectancy high on one of these. With the original motor, and, you know, the good original motor. If you're wondering why I've got my wooden blocks turned sideways, it's because the hand shafts are super long on this thing. And with them laying down, it's actually too short, these wooden blocks. So either I get more or I do this. Anyway, let's look at our gear train, shall we? So we've got our, we got this. On some examples of these, I've seen a screw there, but there's no screw here on this one. If you look at this from that angle, you'll wonder to yourself, is this riveted together? And if you don't look closely enough, you could very well think that. These pillars on here, these are riveted on, but these spin. So you can take a pair of pliers and spin that. And these have screw threads in there, which hold this motor on top of here. And there's also this extra little dust protecting case here as well. And yeah, I'll have to show that when I'm putting it back together, because, when I was looking in here at first, I'm thinking, does this come apart at all? Yes, it does. It's not the most straightforward way ever, but it's a way. And it's at least somewhat intended by the manufacturer. So, again, the motors are not dead most of the time. Okay, I'm going to stop saying that. So if I take this top plate off, it just pops right off just like that. That is our gear train, and it is literally identical in the wall clocks. So if I just get if I get a pair of pliers here and just extract everything, because again, old oil, you want to get that off. It's not really, probably not doing its job anymore if I suspect correctly. We've got a fiber gear. We've got a brass gear here. It's got a pinion on it. And that's meant to interact. Oh yeah, and this just comes straight off like that. That is just one assembly as far as I can tell. What's going on here? Let's see, this. Oh yeah. Okay, here's some of the power players in this whole operation. Okay, I'll just pull that out. I'll pull those out together. That wheel's riveted on, and so is that, or that one's, yeah. This one's riveted on, that one's going to stay on. This wheel's important because it has a switch on it, so to speak. These are synchronous motors where when they start up, they will start either backwards or forwards. And for those times that it starts backwards, this gear will, start in reverse. But it's got those teeth on it, which it'll catch in that little ratchet there, and it will hold up the movement, and it won't let it run until it switches directions, which it does, when it feels an obstruction, it'll automatically switch directions. So it doesn't start in, the right direction all the time, but there is a mechanism in there to, combat that and make sure it actually goes in the right direction, if that makes any sense. So yeah, this is staying on here. And that, we're not quite done. I'll take these two wheels apart. Nice and oily. Oh yeah. The oil looks kind of dirty in this. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be, in that it looks fairly alright. I don't know. It's nice and sticky still, but, if this is from 1966, like, some of these brass parts, they just look dirty. And plus that oil, the oil wick in this thing, who the heck knows when that was last, topped up? Probably never. That just pulls straight out of there, the stator, or the rotor, sorry. And then, yeah, you just have the stator all by itself. I don't know how you disassemble one of these stators right now. I'm assuming it'd be something to do with those jeepers creepers. What is wrong with my camera? Apple, they say they improve the camera on this thing. I don't know. They just make it harder to use. Yeah, I'm assuming it has something to do with these. You can get those apart, and then this whole top piece probably lifts off. I've never played around with one of these. I don't have a dead one that's, I have no reason to justify tearing one of these open, so I'm not going to. I'm not going to until something goes wrong with one. So yeah, that is basically it. So now I'm going to take my ZEP 505 formula that I've always used, clean up all these parts, I'm going to stick a toothpick probably down in that hole there, get as much dirt and stuff as I can out of here, and then re-oil it and throw it all back together. So I've just cleaned this, and again, I've used that ZEP 505 stuff. It's super easy to get a hold of. Literally go to Home Depot and get yourself one. I'm going to try oiling the wick here and just see if it gets... like this is just, like, again, I've just cleaned this, so I don't know if it's going to immediately start kind of getting in there. Or should I oil there and there? Top and bottom? See what happens. This is an older can of 3-in-1 oil, but it's still good. Okay, that's probably enough to start with. And unlike the other Ingrams, there's no cap for this. So I'm just kind of stuck with the... I have to keep this facing a certain way or else the oil might leak out. I don't know. You know what? Yeah, it's probably not gonna... Oh, is it gonna leak everywhere? Yeah, it will. Okay, well, we'll just oil both sides of this. Actually, I've just been playing around with this. If I just gently push the rotor, you can see that it is, this is most definitely an oil wick. I mean, obviously, what else is this going to be? But yeah, the end of the rotor is pushing up against that. So make no mistake, that is for oil. Okay, that's good. And I did go back in there and oil it a second time. Again, 3-in-1 oil. Okay, so the movement is now back together. We've cleaned, we've oiled, we've done all that really needs to be doing. No rebushing on this movement. Nothing was worn, thankfully. But, you know, if you leave one of these for too long, you will get those types of problems. Granted, there's no mainspring or anything on this to really strain any of the wheels here. But still, you want to keep this thing clean and oiled properly, especially this over here. So now we can put this back together. So if let's see, which way does this go? Just like that. There we go. Or not. Is that fitting on? I don't know. I can't do this one-handed. There's no way. She won't work. Oh! Okay. That feels more right. So my one gripe about this is, unfortunately, this has to sit like that until we put this back onto those posts. Which means all of this can just flip-flop around, yeah, until it's screwed on properly. If I was Ingram or PAM or whoever, I would have put the nuts that are supposed to be on these, on the alarm version of this movement and the wall clock version of this. There's these little nuts that screw on here. But unfortunately, again, PAM has decided not to, or Neon Ray has decided not to. So yeah, it screws onto those pillars there, and it sits, you know, with the, you know, facing up like, or, well, I'm not going to flip it over, but you know how it is. But yeah, this is the main thing I wanted to tackle, just to make sure the actual movement itself was okay. This is the main deal right here. And there's our time setting mechanism there. We'll get to that in a bit. But with this in good health, we can now reassemble this, and it should run for a while longer. And I think every few years I'm going to come back in here and, you know, clean, re-oil this thing. Yeah. Oh, and we're going to put LED light bulbs in this thing too, because the original incandescents are, well, they're not original, first of all. Those are long gone. Yeah, these are Chinese. It doesn't even say what these are. Yeah, there's no brand name or anything on these. So yeah, these are too hot. These are going to wreck the glass. And there's plenty of PAMs that already have wrecked glass. If you just look at them on eBay, you'll see, you know, paint's missing, or there'll be two big burn marks where the bulbs are. Yeah, they're just too hot for these clocks, especially you know, 60 plus years down the road. They're just not cutting it anymore. So you gotta use LEDs in one of these, or else you'll just completely ruin the dial eventually. One thing I will say about the cases on these is actually we've got a bit of a problem here. Yeah, I need to drill these rivets out. Apparently these posts are bolted on, and yeah, that's not a pretty sight. But when faced with, you know, that, with that motor on top. All you can really do is try and turn these with a pair of pliers and hope they unscrew. But yeah, this needs to be drilled out, and I need to bolt that back on, because this is too much of a pain in the neck to deal with, trying to do this, trying to put this motor back on here, you know, when this is, yeah, no. We're gonna drill this out and get some nice screws in there. Oh yeah, so they've got these 4 bumps here anyway to compensate for that. So this rivet is not sitting flat up against the wall. There is you know, those bumps are a buffer there. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and take all of these out and bolt these back on properly. This is super easy to do, and it'll make working on this thing a heck of a lot easier. And once I drill those rivets out, looky here. Yeah, we've got those Ingram nuts that I was talking about earlier. There they are. That's where they should be, right there. Well, they actually should be over here, but you know. So this, I don't understand why they felt the need to rivet this on, you know, after using nuts and bolts here. I don't know. I guess they just expected no one to take that motor off. Well, anyway, you know, at least we can thread that and, you know, solve this relatively quick. Okay, this is how this should be with those, you know, pillars on there, and then we can screw that onto that. Oh yeah, neon ray. Obviously, obviously no jeweler who, you know, I mean, maybe nowadays they would, but back in the day, if any jeweler got this, there's no way he'd even do anything with it. I admit, I don't entirely know how the wiring on this works, but I believe the right side is our hot, and then that goes into the wire without the pattern on it. The wire with the pattern on it has the neutral. I believe that is what's cooking here. The sockets, I couldn't make any sense of how they work as far as which side is hot and which side isn't. I'm going to assume the pattern side is the neutral. I'm thinking that's what's going on here. I don't know what would happen if I wired this backwards. Because the synchronous motor can be wired in either direction, but I don't know about the light bulbs. So, anyway, fairly simple otherwise. So there we have it, our Wawanesa or Wawanesa. I'm honestly not sure which way that's pronounced. Our Wawanesa advertising clock is back in service, and it's hopefully going to last a very long time with regular maintenance now that it has been converted to be more, well, slightly converted, a little bit. Now that it's been modified, I should say, to be more maintenance friendly in the future, and hopefully that motor lasts a super long time. And I'll be checking up on this thing, and it's probably a very high hour movement as it is. It doesn't show any pivot wear. I mean, we would have seen it when we were inside, and the pivots were fine on this thing. So if it does ever degrade like that, I'll rebush it. I'll make a video on it, I'm sure. For those of you who like Ingram electric clocks, I'll be sure to do more videos on those as I get a hold of them and all that. Some of those alarm clocks, you know, ones that have the same motor as the one that's in here. You know, more of that type of content to come. And hopefully more advertising clock content maybe in the future. Not that I'm planning on buying more, but, you know, these are super interesting, and I wish that there was more information on these things, especially in the early and late. My dad told me once that all the small towns in my area, well, every store, every restaurant, they all had advertising clocks, you know, like this around. And that's interesting because there is a date stamp in there, which I don't even think I looked at in this video, or maybe I did earlier. I'm not sure. I filmed this video months ago, and I'm just adding this last clip onto it now. I know, right? Surprise, surprise. New Year's Eve. There's a date stamp in there that says, I think it's April of 1966, or 67 maybe? It's something like that. It's either 66 or 68. I honestly can't tell because the way the stamp is done, it's just hard to tell. So it could be from either or. But either way, it still lines up with the PAM/neon ray timeline, because they didn't stop these things until 1972. And by no means is this the oldest style of advertising clock they produced. I mean, they've got their diamond-shaped one, and they've got that circle one as well. That sphere. And I don't know how common the square one is, but they're probably, actually probably that diamond one's the rarest. But anyway, I'm not going to be making statements about that here. Oh yeah, the pricing is all over the place on these things. Be careful. People will tell you something's rare when it's probably not. Or if they don't tell you it's rare, it might be. You know how eBay works. Of course, the best way to do this is doing it the way I did in this case, where you find a local collector in your area by some miracle, and then you then you actually go to his property and he sells you one of these. That is the best way, in my opinion. But others may have other opinions on that, and I'm sure eBay occasionally, every now and then, comes in with some crazy good deal, and I'm sure local auction houses and flea markets occasionally will do that. But the thing is, because advertising clocks, even though there's not much information available on a lot of these, everyone knows what these are as far as antique collectors go, and that's because of, you know, gas and oil. Everything automobile related is, you know, semi-desirable in some fashion, some way, shape, or form. And because these are connected to that at times, yeah, these will be thrown into the it's worth $3 gazillion saga. But of course, even those people who collect all the car-related stuff, there's no way they're buying it through, you know, these crazy eBay stores with all their insane prices. You know, no one does that. Maybe this conversation is better kept for another video. Better saved for another video. But yeah, don't pay the stupid prices for this stuff. Just don't. Wait, you may find a good deal on Facebook Marketplace, which in this case I did. And you know, maybe your local auction house or flea market will come through. Absolutely check your local auction house. I know mine occasionally comes up with advertising clocks of all shapes and kinds. And sometimes the numbers go absolutely insane on those, but other times they don't. So, anyway, as for Wawanesa, I don't know much about them, but I do know our house is insured with them. Yes, I am actually a Wawanesa client. This company still exists, and it is in my area. And hopefully I didn't just dox myself by saying that, but yeah, that's me. So if ever one of those agents, you know, if ever anyone from them, they probably never will, but if anyone from Wawanesa ever comes to the house, they're being forced at gunpoint down here to see this. They will see this. That is not an optional thing. They're coming down to the basement and they're going to see this. Of course, that is hopefully before they call the cops on me. But that's besides the point. Wawanesa advertising clock, Canadian Neon Ray, will do more research on, as well as research on PAM, see what I can come up with. I think the Canadian Clock Museum has a crap ton of that type of stuff. And yeah, that's my story. So thank you guys for joining me on this one. And I'm really thankful that this one wasn't in terrible condition. I mean, even the dial's in nice shape. You know, some of these things, maybe the motor, maybe the coil is, you know, heaven forbid, the coil is, you know, open circuit on the Ingram motor there. That would really suck. Sure, it's an easy motor to find, but still, you know, the more of these things there are in service working, the better. And hopefully with routine maintenance, this one will stay running for an incredibly long time to come.